In the neon-drenched underbelly of New Chicago, where the air hummed with the low buzz of drones and the skyline twisted like a digital dream, Max Hargrove took the stage. The crowd roared, a sea of faces illuminated by the flickering light of holographic advertisements selling everything from mood enhancement chips to memory restorations. Tonight, Max was a comedic hero, wielding humor as a weapon against the absurdity of a society too willing to hand over its memories for a more palatable reality. Hey folks. Max grinned, his mismatched socks peeking out from under his tattered jeans. Ever notice how voting these days feels like ordering a pizza? Just a few clicks and, poof. Your favorite toppings get replaced by something you never asked for. Extra anchovies of regret, anyone? Laughter erupted, rolling like thunder through the cramped, graffiti-covered walls of the underground laugh lab. Max leaned into the chaos, spinning tales of how he once met a guy who claimed he had voted for a candidate because he was super nice. Turns out, the guy had just undergone a memory wipe, courtesy of the government's infamous memory transfer system. I mean, how do you trust a guy who can't even remember if he likes pineapple on pizza? Max quipped, as the crowd hooted in agreement, but the laughter faded as a chill swept through the room. Mid-performance, a small group of memory enforcement officers, MEOs, clad in their sterile black uniforms, slipped into the club. They surveyed the room with cold, calculating eyes, and a hush fell over the crowd. Max's heart raced, but he pressed on, channeling his nerves into an improvised bit. And if you think voting is scary, just wait until you wake up one day and find out you've been a supporting character in a bad sitcom. Hello, plot twist. Just as the audience began to relax, the lead MEO stepped forward. Max Hargrove, we need to talk, he said, his voice flat. The crowd tensed, their nervous laughter replaced by palpable fear. Oh. Max said, feigning a gasp. Is it about my last joke? Because I'm really not responsible for how you took it. Remember, you're the one who chose to come to a comedy club. But deep down, he felt the heat of anxiety prickling at the back of his neck. The last thing he wanted was to be the punchline of his own story. With that, the audience bolted, leaving Max standing on stage, frozen in place. The MEOs moved closer, but just before they reached him, a figure darted in from the back, a familiar face. It was Lila, a fellow member of the Remembrance, the underground resistance group he had tried to avoid ever since he'd chosen the easier path of comedy over confrontation. She grabbed his arm, yanking him off stage just as the officers lunged. Come on, Max. We need to get out of here, she shouted, urgency lining her features. The two of them dashed through the chaos, weaving past startled patrons and out into the cool night air. They sprinted down a back alley. Max panted, what was that all about? I thought my comedy was a hit. More like a hit list, Lila replied, her eyes darting around, searching for MEOs. You've been making jokes about the system, and they don't find it funny. They're scared of you. You've got to take this seriously. Max ran a hand through his messy hair, catching his breath. Okay. But how am I supposed to take down a government that rewrites memories for fun? I barely remember what I had for breakfast. It's not just about you, Max. It's about everyone who's been brainwashed into submission. We need you because you have a gift, people listen to you. He felt a spark of doubt as he remembered the laughter that had just faded away. Yeah, right. I'm just a clown with a mic. What do I know about revolution? Lila shot him a sharp look. More than you think. You can help us get into the memory archive and retrieve evidence of their manipulation. This could change everything. Max hesitated, his instincts battling against his fears. He had long avoided the gritty reality of activism, preferring to stay behind the safety of his jokes. But deep down, he felt the call of something greater, something beyond punchlines and laughter. Maybe it was the ghost of a past he'd forgotten. "All right, I'm in. Let's do this." As they made their way to the secret hideout of the Remembrance, Max's mind buzzed with questions. What exactly were they up against? Could he really make a difference? He glanced sideways at Lila, her determined expression igniting a flicker of hope within him. If he was going to dive into this head first, he needed to remember why he had started in the first place. The hideout was a dimly lit basement filled with old computer equipment and makeshift workspaces. A few familiar faces greeted him, some he had met during his brief time in the Resistance, others were strangers. They huddled around a holographic display, analyzing schematics of the memory archive. Max felt the weight of their expectation on him, a heavy cloak he wasn't sure he could wear. "Welcome back, Max," one of the members said, a tall guy with a scruffy beard named Alex. "We could use your charm. We're planning a raid on the archive tomorrow night." Max raised an eyebrow. "Charm? You mean my good looks and bad jokes?" "Exactly," Lila chimed in, a smirk tugging at her lips. "You distract them while we do the real work. Think of it as a performance." He chuckled despite himself. "And here I thought I was the one doing the show." "More like a live demonstration," Alex added, tapping his tablet. "We'll need you to lure the guards away. You're the only one who can pull it off without drawing too much attention." Max's heart raced. The thought of stepping into the lion's den, where his own memories could be used against him, was terrifying. Yet, something deep within him stirred, a sense of purpose that had long been buried beneath layers of complacency. "Fine," he said, cracking his knuckles. "But if I end up getting lobotomized, you're all paying for my therapy." "Deal," Lila replied with a grin. "Let's get ready for the show of a lifetime." As the group busied themselves with preparations, Max took a moment to collect his thoughts. The weight of the task ahead pressed on him, but so did a sense of exhilaration. He was no longer just a jester in a world gone mad, he was stepping into the ring to fight for something real. He couldn't help but wonder if he'd rediscover memories of himself that had been lost along the way. The next day, as he stood before a mirror practicing his delivery, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. He was already starting to feel the effects of memory manipulation, his mind flickering between the funny and the terrifying. Was that really what he thought? Or had someone else written the script of his life? The night of the raid arrived, and the city glimmered with the electric thrill of possibility. Max suited up, donning an absurd disguise, a flamboyant costume that blended elements of classic comedy with absurdity. "If I'm going down, I might as well look fabulous," he quipped, earning a chuckle from Lila. As they approached the memory archive, his stomach churned. The sleek, glass-fronted building loomed like a corporate fortress, a stark reminder of the oppressive regime controlling their lives. He took a deep breath, readying himself for the show. The plan was simple: enter, distract the guards with humor, and let Lila and the team do their work behind the scenes. "All right, showtime," Max muttered, stepping forward as the door slid open. A wave of nerves washed over him, but he pushed it aside. The memory of laughter was his shield now. Inside, the air was cool and sterile, a stark contrast to the chaos of the world outside. Max spotted the guards, a couple of imposing figures with expressionless faces, their gazes fixed on the monitors displaying the flow of memories. "Ladies and gentlemen," he bellowed, his voice echoing through the hall. "Welcome to the memory archive, where dreams go to die and comedy goes to thrive. The guards turned, bewilderment flickering in their eyes as Max launched into an improvised stand-up routine. You know, I always wondered, what do you get when you cross a government with a bad comedian? A whole lot of forgettable moments. Right? While the guards exchanged glances, Lila and the others moved stealthily behind him, their expressions tense yet determined. Max could feel the sweat trickling down his back, the pressure building. Would this actually work? As he continued, the guards started to laugh, an unexpected sound that both thrilled and terrified him. And speaking of forgettable moments, how about the last election? Did anyone even remember who they voted for? Or was it just an algorithm telling them what to think? Just then, an alarm blared, and Max's heart sank. The guards' amusement vanished as they rushed to their posts, eyes narrowing with suspicion. Lila shot him a panicked look, signaling that the plan was unraveling, time for a punchline. Max shouted, and with that, he launched into a series of rapid-fire jokes, hoping to keep the guards off balance. But in the chaos, he could sense that time was running out. Suddenly, the lead guard stepped closer, his expression grim. "You're not funny, clown. You're a threat." He reached for his communicator, and panic surged through Mechs.in that moment. Something deep within him clicked, a fleeting memory of laughter shared with friends, a sense of belonging that had been stripped away. "No, no. You don't understand. The real joke is on you," he yelled, desperation lacing his voice. Max's wild antics seemed to catch the guard off guard, but the tension in the air was palpable. As laughter erupted again, Lila seized the opportunity and slipped past the guards, her eyes locked on the archive's main terminal. Max's distraction was working, but at what cost? Then, the unexpected happened. The lights flickered, and the screen surrounding them suddenly displayed images from the past, memories of citizens laughing, crying, and sharing genuine moments that had been erased. The guards froze, entranced by the chaos of real emotions. "See?" Max said, his voice steadier now. "That's the beauty of real memories. You can't control them. They're messy, they're flawed, and they make life worth living." The guards hesitated, glancing at each other as doubt crept into their eyes. That's when Max saw it, the flicker of recognition, a glimpse of their humanity peeking through the layers of conditioning. But before he could capitalize on their moment of uncertainty, a voice crackled through the intercom, cutting through the tension like a knife. "All units, report to the memory archive. Intruders detected. Activate immediate lockdown." Max felt a jolt of fear shoot through him. They had to act fast. Lila was at the terminal, fingers flying across the keyboard. "I'm in. Just a few more seconds." As the guards regained their composure, the sound of approaching footsteps echoed through the hall. Max's heart raced. "Hey, anyone want to hear a joke about the government?" he called out, the absurdity of his situation not lost on him. "It's classified." Just then, a thought struck him, a way to turn the tide. "You know what's funny?" he shouted, capturing the guard's attention. "The real comedy is how you're not even aware you're being programmed to forget the best parts of life. Let's change that." Lila looked up, eyes wide. "Max, what are you doing?" "I'm giving them a reason to remember," he replied, drawing on the memories he had fought so hard to reclaim. "Let's show them what they're missing." In that moment, as laughter erupted from the guards, confused and chaotic but undeniably real, Max felt the thrill of hope surge through him. Maybe, just maybe, they could break through the walls of conditioning. Perhaps the power of genuine memory could triumph over the cold, sterile manipulation of the MTS. Max felt a surge of adrenaline as laughter began to spread through the ranks of the guards. It was a strange, surreal moment, like a scene from a bizarre sitcom where the punchline suddenly becomes the key to redemption. He focused on the guards, amplifying his comedic flair, using self-deprecating humor to disarm them. "You know, I always thought being a guard was like being a bouncer at a bad comedy club, just waiting for the night to end so you can go home and forget it all. But look at you. You're here making memories." A couple of the guards chuckled, the tension in their stony expressions beginning to crack. The sound was intoxicating. If laughter could disarm them, maybe it could spark something deeper, a flicker of rebellion against their conditioning. "Let me tell you about my buddy Steve," Max continued, weaving in a tale about a comically inept friend who accidentally joined a memory enhancement program, only to realize he didn't even like art, despite having the memories of a critic. He spent 2 weeks trying to remember how to enjoy a sandwich. Turns out, the only thing he really missed was the flavor of his own thoughts. The guards laughed louder now, some shaking their heads in disbelief. Max could see it in their eyes, an ember of doubt about the world they inhabited, a longing for authenticity buried beneath layers of enforced compliance. Behind him, Lila was still focused on the terminal, her fingers dancing over the keys as she worked to retrieve the evidence they needed. Max could feel the pressure mounting, the footsteps approaching closer and closer, but he couldn't afford to lose momentum. "And speaking of memories, I just remembered my mom's face when I told her I wanted to be a comedian. She looked like I'd just told her I was joining a cult of avocado toast enthusiasts." The guards roared with laughter, and for a brief moment, Max felt like he had them on his side, like he was leading them back into the light. But reality came crashing back as the sound of heavy boots reverberated through the corridor. They had only moments left. "Lila, how's it going back there?" Max called, glancing over his shoulder as the door to the archive creaked open, a shadow falling across the threshold. "Almost there." "Just need," a loud bang echoed through the hall, cutting her off. The remaining guards snapped to attention, their laughter evaporating as the urgency of the situation hit them like a cold wave. Max's heart raced, and in that split second, he knew he had to escalate the comedy. "Okay, how about a quick riddle?" he shouted, holding up his hands as if he were conducting a bizarre orchestra. "What do you call a bunch of memory-wiped guards trying to catch a comedian? A joke in progress." Laughter erupted again, but the guard's attention was wavering. The approaching footsteps grew louder, menacingly close. He had to keep them engaged, keep them from thinking about their orders. "Come on, guys. If you catch me, what's next? You're going to throw me into a memory clinic? I hear they serve terrible coffee and bad punchlines." With a final burst of energy, Max pointed to the terminal. "While we're at it, let's be real. You all know the only reason you took this job was for the memory wipes, right? Gotta keep the funny thoughts out, right? I mean, who doesn't want to wake up not remembering the worst jokes you ever heard? Like this one." Before he could continue, Lila yelled, "I got it." The terminal whirred to life, displaying files and memories that flickered like ghosts in the air. "Max, we need to go, now." The guards hesitated, still caught in the web of laughter, but the urgency in Lila's voice cut through the haze. "Go. I'll hold them off." "No way," Max shot back, the thought of leaving her behind sending a jolt of fear through him. "We stick together." Suddenly, the first guard snapped out of it, his eyes narrowing as he began to regain his composure. "Enough of this," he barked, raising his communicator. "We need backup." Max's mind raced, desperately searching for a way to turn the tide. You don't want backup. They'll ruin all this fun, he blurted. Let's keep this just between us. Come on, one last joke. Lila didn't wait. Max, now. She lunged for him, grabbing his arm and pulling him toward the exit. The laughter faded as the reality of their situation hit home, and the guards began to recover, their expressions hardening. Go! Max shouted, adrenaline fueling his legs as he sprinted alongside Lila, bursting through the door just as the alarm blared louder. They rushed down a corridor, heart pounding, echoes of their laughter still ringing in their ears. They skidded to a stop as they reached a fork in the path, and Lila glanced at him, breathless. Which way? Max fumbled. Let's go left. Everyone loves a dramatic exit. They veered left, barreling down the hall as alarms blared overhead. Behind them, the sound of boots echoed closer, urgency mounting. They rounded a corner and skidded to a halt as they faced a wall of glass, an enormous window overlooking the archive's main control center, buzzing with activity. Lila turned to him, determination flaring in her eyes. We can't go back. We have to find another way out. Max pressed his forehead against the cool glass, peering inside. What if we break it? It's just glass, right? I mean, I did learn a thing or two from being a bad handyman. Great plan, Picasso. Let's not go breaking our way into a prison. Lila shot back, but he could see the tension in her shoulders. They needed to think fast. Then, inspiration struck. Wait, remember the side exit we saw during the last tour? If we can just get to the next corridor, let's go. They turned and sprinted down another hallway, Max leading the way, his heart racing with the thrill of the chase. They dashed through the labyrinthine corridors, every sound amplified, footsteps pounding behind them, alarms blaring, the rush of adrenaline sharpening their senses. Just when they thought they were gaining ground, a heavy door swung open, blocking their path. Stop, a guard shouted, raising his weapon. Max skidded to a halt, his mind racing. How about a quick joke, he said, a wild idea forming. Why did the guard cross the road? To get to the other side of this memory wipe, of course. The guard blinked, momentarily distracted by the absurdity, and Lila seized the moment. She grabbed Max's arm, and they ducked under the guard's arm, darting past him as he spluttered in confusion. Nice one. Lila laughed, adrenaline coursing through them. They zigzagged down another hallway, fueled by their shared laughter, every step a reminder of their determination. They finally burst through a set of emergency exit doors, finding themselves in a dark alley. The cool night air rushed over them like a wave, and they stumbled into the street. But they couldn't rest yet. The sound of shouts behind them echoed, and they quickly ducked into the shadows. Max glanced at Lila, panting. Did we make it? For now, she said, her eyes wide with exhilaration. But we have to keep moving. They'll be looking for us. Right, he nodded, still trying to catch his breath. Any bright ideas for our next act? She smiled, a mix of fear and excitement. How about we find a place to regroup and plan our next move? As they hurried away from the archive, Max felt a mix of exhilaration and fear coursing through him. They had escaped, but what lay ahead? Could they really make a difference in a society so entrenched in manipulation? With Lila by his side, he felt a flicker of hope igniting within him, a belief that together, they could inspire others to remember their truths. They ducked into a small cafe, one of the few spots still operating in the early hours of the morning. The dim lights and the smell of strong coffee enveloped them as they found a table in the back. Max glanced around, making sure they hadn't been followed. "Okay," Lila said, her tone shifting to seriousness. "We need to get that data out to the public. If we can show them what the government has been doing, maybe we can spark a real movement." Max nodded, the weight of their task settling on his shoulders. "But how do we do that? We can't just upload it to the internet. They'd shut us down in seconds." "True," Lila replied, her brow furrowed in thought. "But we know people in the underground network who can help us spread the word. We need to contact them, set up a plan to leak the data." As they mapped out their next steps, Max felt a strange comfort in the familiarity of their banter. "So, are we basically the Robin Hood of memories now?" he joked, trying to lighten the mood. "Stealing from the rich and giving back to the memoryless?" Lila chuckled, shaking her head. "If only it were that simple. But yeah, in a way, we are." Hours passed as they strategized, plotting their next move in hushed voices over steaming cups of coffee. Max felt the urgency grow as they discussed routes, contacts, and the possibility of using underground channels to disseminate their findings. Suddenly, Lila's expression shifted. "Max, I need you to be honest with me. Are you really ready for this? It's going to get dangerous." Max met her gaze, the gravity of the question sinking in. "I've never been more ready. I've spent too long hiding behind jokes. This is my chance to do something real, to fight back." A flicker of uncertainty passed through Lila's eyes, but then she nodded, her resolve solidifying. "All right then. Let's make it count." They left the cafe, their hearts pounding with anticipation and fear. The city felt alive around them, the streets buzzing with activity. Max's mind raced, and with every step, he could feel the weight of their mission pressing down. Memories were precious, and he would do everything in his power to reclaim them for those who had lost their truth. As they navigated through the bustling streets, Max couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The atmosphere was thick with tension, and as they approached the rendezvous point, his instincts flared. "Lila, we need to be careful. I think we're being followed." "Just keep moving," she urged, her eyes scanning the crowd. "Stick to the plan." They reached a small community center, a nondescript building nestled between towering apartment complexes. It was a hub for those who resisted the memory manipulation and a safe haven for their growing network. Lila led Max inside, the door closing behind them with a satisfying click. Inside, the air buzzed with anticipation. A group of resistance members was gathered, their faces lit by the glow of computer screens displaying various data streams. As Lila introduced Max, the atmosphere shifted. He was no longer just a comedian, he was part of something larger, a mission that could change everything. "All right, everyone," Lila said, her voice steady. "We have a plan. Max has some vital information that we need to share with the world." A murmur of excitement rippled through the room, and Max felt a swell of pride. "So, no pressure, right?" he joked, trying to ease the tension. "Just the fate of our collective memories resting on my shoulders." The group laughed, and he felt the camaraderie wrap around him like a warm blanket. He wasn't just fighting for himself anymore, he was fighting for all of them. As they began to outline their strategy, Max shared his experience at the archive and the glimpses of true memories that had flashed on the screens. The members listened intently, their expressions growing serious. They were in this together, a collective force fueled by the desire to reclaim what had been stolen. "We need to find a way to broadcast this," one member suggested. "Get it into the hands of the people." "And not just any people," Lila interjected. "We need to reach those who have been manipulated the most, the ones who can help us spread the word." Max's mind raced. What if we hold a live event? A comedy show that doubles as a rally? I can use humor to draw people in, and we can share the truth through the performances. Lila's eyes sparkled with excitement. That could work. We could create a buzz, attract media attention. The group began brainstorming ideas, energy electrifying the room. As the plan took shape, Max felt a sense of purpose solidifying within him. He wasn't just the Joker anymore, he was a catalyst for change. The following days were a whirlwind of preparation. Max worked tirelessly, crafting his material, intertwining humor with the stark reality of their situation. The team collaborated on the logistics of the event, securing a venue and spreading the word through their underground network. Finally, the night of the show arrived. The venue was packed, the air thick with anticipation and tension. Max stood backstage, his heart racing as he listened to the chatter of the crowd. They were all there for one reason, to remember. As he stepped onto the stage, the bright lights washed over him, illuminating the faces in the audience. He felt a surge of nerves and excitement, the weight of their collective hopes resting on his shoulders. "Welcome, everyone," he called out, his voice booming through the mic. "Tonight, we're here to have some fun, but also to wake up. So let's dive into the strange, twisted world we live in." The audience erupted in applause, and Max launched into his routine, blending laughter with biting commentary on their current reality. With each punchline, he could feel the crowd's energy rising, their spirits lifting. He expertly wove in stories of people who had lost their memories and how they fought to reclaim them, using humor to highlight the absurdity of their situation. Have you ever met someone who claims they voted for a candidate because they were nice? What's nice about forgetting who you are? Laughter erupted, and Max saw the flicker of recognition in the crowd. As he delved deeper into his material, the audience was spellbound, laughter intertwining with the stark truths he revealed. He could see it in their eyes, the spark of remembrance, the realization that they were not alone. As he reached the climax of his routine, he paused, taking a deep breath. "And while I'm here cracking jokes, I want to remind you all of something. Memories are powerful. They shape who we are, and without them, we become shadows of ourselves. Let's not let anyone take that away from us." The audience erupted into applause, and he felt a wave of exhilaration wash over him. But the night was just beginning. After the show, Lila and the team worked quickly to distribute flyers with QR codes linking to the evidence they had gathered. Max mingled with the audience, engaging them in conversation, encouraging them to share their own memories. "Together, we can make a difference," he declared, his heart swelling with pride. "Let's show the world that we're more than just a collection of programmed thoughts." As the night wore on, the energy in the room shifted. It was no longer just a performance, it had transformed into a movement, a rallying cry for those who had been silenced. Just as they were packing up, a familiar face appeared in the crowd, one of the guards from the archive, his expression unreadable. Max's heart raced, but he stood his ground, ready to confront whatever came next. "Max," the guard said, stepping closer. "I came here because I wanted to understand. I remember what you said during the raid. I don't want to forget anymore." Max's breath caught in his throat. I've seen too much. I can't be a part of this anymore," the guard admitted, his voice trembling. "I want to help." In that moment, everything shifted. Here was a person who had once been an enforcer of the regime, now standing before him, ready to reclaim their own humanity. Max felt a flicker of hope ignite within him, a testament to the power of memory and laughter. "Welcome to the team," Max said, extending his hand. "Together, we'll fight to remember. As the night drew to a close, the air buzzed with newfound energy. They had taken a leap into the unknown, but now, they were not alone. They had each other, a growing network of resistance willing to reclaim their lives from the clutches of manipulation. Max looked around at the faces filled with hope and determination. This was only the beginning. The fight for their memories had just started, and together, they would rise up, armed with laughter and the unyielding desire to remember. In the heart of New Chicago, as the neon lights flickered above them, Max felt a profound sense of purpose. The world was waiting, and he was ready to make sure that nobody would forget who they were ever again.